and I might just well say it, we all had a drink together. And he brought the drink.
Sounds like a very nice guy.
He was, and he's still alive. He lives in Findlay, Ohio.
Do you talk to him every once in a while?
Oh, yes, yes.
I've always wondered, what is an LST ship?
It's a landing ship troop or a landing ship tank. The LST that I was on was the landing ship tank, which was the front opened up and dropped down so the tanks and the vehicles could travel out of the front end of the ship.
Where did you use this? What theater of operation?
In the European, when we crossed the channel, the English Channel to go to Normandy.
When with a convoy of these ships, you wrote that one ship was attacked and another hit by a mine and both were disabled. You also wrote that you saw this firsthand from the deck. Could you tell me what you recall about that day and its events?
You mean when the bombing or the hit the mine?
Both of them actually.
Okay.
From the entire day.
As I say, the attacking of the first was lay at a distance. I would say the LST to our right was probably maybe 100 yards away. I can still see the water spout going in the air. As I say, I have no idea how many were injured, but that was sure there had to be some on that ship, but you know, they didn't report things like that to us.
How did it make you and the soldiers around you feel once that happened? I mean, did the morale go way down,
No.
or did you try to keep it up?
No, the morale didn't go down. It was just, well, we're getting near the war zone.
Were there any guys that seemed to be more frightened once that happened?
I can't really say so, no, I can't really say that, you know, everybody hung together very well, and I can remember we had an older fellow, and I was always wondering why he was never transferred out. I just got word that this man passed away. He was from Alabama, but there was this older man, and on our march up the beach and through Normandy, this man carried his own pack plus this man's pack on his back. He carried it for him.
How did you feel about Eisenhower's decision to initiate D-Day during the poor weather?
Well, we kept waiting for it for a long time, wondering when it was coming.
So you're almost anxious then?
Right.
German planes and American anti-aircraft. German planes were overhead on Omaha Beach, and anti-aircraft followed these planes. What do you remember about this walk across Omaha Beach?
Well, I think probably the fireworks from the tracer bullets and the shells, and of course this was the searchlights that pick up the planes and they would shoot at them, and I mean they would just follow this plane right down the length of the beach.
Did you know actually what happened on D-Day at Omaha before this?
No.
You stated that you still talk to your section sergeant and your captain who you drove around. What kind of relationship did you have with them during the war?
A very close relationship. I used to go on passes with my section sergeant. I didn't go with the officer, but with my section sergeant. We used to go to passes together.
What do bronze battle stars, what do they signify?
They signify that you've been in this combat zone. Our unit received 5. After you receive 5 bronze stars for your ETO ribbon, the 5, then it's changed to a silver star.
So a silver star signifies 5 bronze battle stars?
Right.
That was my next question. Your unit received 5 bronze battle stars. This gave each member a silver star. What did this mean to you then and now when you look back at it?
I am very proud of it. We often wondered why we didn't get one for Southern England. The outfit that I came home with, they received 6 and they got one for Southern England, but they were at an aircraft outfit, so that was probably why they got one, because they stayed in one position and they were there. We moved all over England, so that's why we didn't get the one for Southern England.
Your unit also received a signed commendation from General Wayland for retrieving an aircraft under enemy fire. Can you remember any individual actions that were extraordinary on that day?
Well, our commendation from General Whalen probably covered a period of several days, probably because this recovering aircraft and stuff went on for a continual length of time.
Had you ever met General Whalen?
No.
I know he was a very high up officer. Do you remember the day you received the commendation?
I believe we received notice of this probably would be a few months afterwards, when we'd moved on to another base.
Most of the time overseas you spent in the ETO or European Theater of Operations. Can you tell me where and how long you spent in these places? If you could, details would be awesome.
We probably averaged about a month at each base. There was one base in Warmingford that maybe we were at for about 2 months. I would say that was probably our longest stay of any base, was at Warmingford, and that was a P-47 base.
What was the P-47 base?
It's a fighter. It's the Thunderbolt. The P-51 is the Spitfire, and the other one is the P-38 now. Lightning fighter.
Can you remember any individual battles or mishaps your unit had to overcome?
The only thing I can think of is our exit from Metz when the Battle of the Bulge, that we had to move back so quickly.
What did you and your unit do in your spare time? I mean, this is where stories and anything you can think of comes in.
Well, I'll say one thing. When we were in Normandy, as I said, we arrived at our base, the engineers didn't have it completed. Some of us walked to the German fortifications that had been overrun, and we went through them, how they lived underground and what they used. And of course these Germans had been there for a few years, and they made underground places that the men stayed, and of course the pillboxes were concrete, but most of them were blown up by the time we got there.
Mm-hmm.
But they still had their housings that was underground, and we went through them.
You told me the story about how you actually bought the German potato mashers.
Mashers, right.
Well, what was the story about that?
Well, we would move back to St. Dizier, and the planes couldn't take off because there was snow on the ground, probably about a foot of snow. the fog was thick so they couldn't take off, and you know, everybody was something to do, and we found this river that had fish in it, and they found these German potato mashers, which is the German hand grenade, and we went down to the river and we threw a few in, and the fish floated to the surface, and we had fish dinners on our own.
So during this time where you spend with your unit and where you weren't actually on missions or rebuilding the airports, what are some of the kind of things that you did just in your normal spare time?
As I say, we issued tools for the mechanics.
Spare time.
On the spare time. Probably played a little cards, poker, something like that. I remember lots of payday. I never shot the dice in my life because I didn't trust that stuff, but I did play a little poker to pass the time. Nickel and dime stuff.
More towards the beginning of the war, what was the ship's name that you took from America to?
It was the Queen Elizabeth.
Where did that take off from?
It took off from New York, harbor of New York, the Pier 90.
Where did you land?
We landed in Glasgow, the harbor of Glasgow, Scotland. On the afternoon of the 25th, we left New York, the boarding of August 20th, and we arrived in Glasgow in the afternoon of August 25th, 1943.
Why didn't you land in England?
We didn't land in England because there was only two ports that were large enough for the Queen Elizabeth dock, and that was Southampton and Liverpool. And both of them were in bomber range of the German bombers, so they always took it to Glasgow.
You said on your way over you had to change direction about every 8 minutes. Why was this?
Okay, the Queen Elizabeth went unescorted, and with about approximately 22,000 men personnel aboard. And the story was that it took a German submarine 10 minutes to line up for torpedoes. The Queen Elizabeth changed course every 8 minutes, and we went quite north, up and it really got cold, even for August.
What was life like on the ship?
Well, our stateroom was up near what we called a room up in the bow of the boat on, I think it was A deck. And I'm sure it would have been kind of a social room in peacetime. And well, there was always, well, a crap game, I might just well say, dice game going on up there, and card games and stuff. I never got into them. We just passed the time away. There was 24 men assigned to our stateroom, and there was 12 bunks that had been installed. There were canvas bunks, and there were 3 wide and 4 people high, and you had a bunk for 24 hours, and your partner had the bunk for the next 24 hours. We were served 2 meals a day. You had a meal ticket, and when they called you, you went for meals, and you eat standing up. You didn't sit down. There were tables that had a little railing around them so that your plates wouldn't slide off from the table that you stood up to eat from.
I once heard that there wasn't even enough room for you to turn over on those beds.
Well,
was there any truth in that?
It was close, and it was kind of warm. It wasn't real cool, so you didn't have to wear many clothes.
I see you've brought a lot of things on the table here. Could you tell us about some of them?
Well, this one here is a piece of, in England we were Geos,